Okay, so now we're going to learn how to do that in camera. So we did a relight layer to sculpt the light inside Photoshop in a non-destructive way. So we separated with a layer on top of all the others so we can retouch the light. And of course there's an easy way to do that in camera as well. So let's go back to Bridge and bring back the CR2 file. And because we used snapshots, we will go back to the step where we've done skin retouching as well. So now we converted to black and white and we've done the skin retouching. Now how to correct the light the way I want? Well, it's going to be with the local adjustment tool. So it's the adjustment brush. Just make sure to bring back the clarity to 0 so everything is nice and set to 0. So I bring back all the default values, and now I'm going to use exposure to a minus something and then adjust it later and increase the size, and now I will be able to paint the background. Alright, and I'm going to do the same for the left side. I'm not going too far on the left because I don't want the hair to be impacted by the setting. Now that I have a mask active, I can adjust, as you can see, this slider and have a nice background, nice black background. Okay, so you can't mix different values in the same setting, meaning if I want to paint somewhere else, it will be minus 250 in the exposure. So this pin here, this mask will be for the background. If I want a new one, I'll just click on New, adjust exposure, and for example, I will use, let's say, minus something to have a bit of a shadow on this part of the face and this part of the hair as well. And again, I'm going to sculpt the light. It's completely non-destructive. I can't go back. I can adjust the mask. I can erase part of the mask. I can use several masks. It's all non-destructive on the raw file. So this is very clean, just like we did in Photoshop in 16 bits. I'm going to use a new one. This time put some light, and I want some light on this part of her face. So I have a nice shadow and highlight effect, and again a new one with a smaller brush, and again maybe smaller, like 4 or 5, and add a bit more light in the eye. Let me increase. I can't see anything right now, so maybe it's just, let me just check by hovering the pin. Where is the mask? So let's click, and it looks like there's nothing on the mask, which is weird because I'm sure I pressed. Let me use the mouse instead. Oh yeah, I see, right. So that was my bad. So that's a good excuse to show you erase now. So smaller brush size, again smaller brush size, 3 or 4, and I want a bit of a feather, and what I wanted is just the iris. So I can use the erase function to adjust the mask to be just about what I wanted. That's it. Uncheck mask. And now, well, obviously it's way too strong. And let's bring back some light in my eye. Yeah, that's it. So now we use different masks for different parts of the picture. This one is for the background. This one is for the left, with some shadow. This one just for the eye. This one is, if you remember well, is for the face and the negative clarity. And this one is for the left part where I added some light. Now I could use as well a graduated filter, and this is the icon just next to it. So let me take this one, which is just for the background, and let me put it back to 0. I'm not going to delete it because I want to keep it. I don't want to do it again. But let's put it back to 0, so it does nothing. It's still there, but it does nothing, right? And this is the graduated filter. And what it does, it applies a setting from A to B using a straight line. So if I take minus something and I drag and drop, I can apply the minus 3.25 exposure negative on the right and on the left. And this is a very easy way to paint backdrops. So if my backdrop is too gray, I want it to be completely dark, I don't want to paint with the paintbrush, I can use that way with a straight line. And for the face, if I wanted for the clarity, so let me use the brush. This one is for the negative clarity, okay? What I could do, I'm just gonna reset to 0. I want to keep the mask, so I'm not deleting it. But what I could have done as well, is just again an excuse to show you different ways to do different things. Again, this icon next to it is the Radial Filter. So it applies a setting from A to B, but instead of using a straight line, it's going to use a circle. So this circle, and well, I have this arrow enabled to create local adjustment because actually everything is set to 0 and it doesn't like it. So I'm going to say clarity minus something. And yeah, I have the face selected pretty much, and this is plus and minus. You can see the mask is actually inverted. So let's take effect inside, and now I have my clarity being applied on the face. And you could ask, why doing it this way? Because we can use the brush and just paint on where we want it. Well, if you start with this, it could be actually a bit quicker to select the face, apply negative clarity, and then you can go to brush, okay, minus, and then if you go, you can still adjust the overall setting for the mask, okay, but because I'm in brush minus, I can say, and I think you guessed it, but I can say I want it to be applied only on some parts, and I don't want it to be applied in the eyes and the lips. So you can use a radial filter as a starting point, so you can get your effect quickly done, quickly applied. And now if I activate the mask, you can see I have the face, but not the lips and not the eyes. So that was probably quicker to do it this way. So I wanted to wait until this point to show it to you because I wanted to show the radial filter in a context that was a bit more relevant, because we just used the graduated filter. So now you can understand what it is like to apply a setting from A to B using a straight line or using a circle. But there is a trick like this one to apply a radial filter on something that is not particularly circular, but it's just a nice way to get things done, and then use the brush mode and remove the parts we don't want. So now if I just click on the zoom button and click on the drop down menu, fit in view, okay, we are 44.3, which is exactly what we want for the fit view, and now you have the look being achieved on this photo. We have retouched the skin, we have sculpted the light, we have fixed the backdrop with several methods even, and now I'd like to see it in 100%. So this is the real texture we're going to get in the end. So if you do it in Photoshop or do it in Camera, it's always non-destructive. Actually, it's non-destructive at all. Actually, with the method I gave you, you should be able to retouch all your photos like this, not just portrait. It works with landscape as well, but it's not exactly the same techniques, but the method is the same, specifically with the camera local adjustment. Of course, you're not going to do frequency separation on the landscape, but the workflow is pretty much the same, and it works really great with many different subjects. So now that we have this, I let you choose the one you prefer, because at this point you know how to retouch a portrait in black and white from Camera and from Photoshop. There is one thing we didn't see yet, which is converting to black and white inside Photoshop. We've seen it in Camera, but not in Photoshop. Okay, so let's jump in the next video and see what we can do to create some black and white in Photoshop instead of using Camera.